Imagine placing a mirror in front of a wild elephant. It freezes. It tilts its massive head. It lifts its trunk slowly toward the glass. And then it does something strange. It touches a mark on its own forehead. Not the mirror, itself. That tiny gesture has haunted scientists for over 50 years, because it forces a question we still cannot fully answer. Does that elephant know it is an elephant? Or is the whole thing just instinct dressed up to look like thought? We assume self-awareness belongs to us. We assume animals only react. But the mirror keeps telling a different story. Not whether animals see a reflection, not whether they react to it, but whether they understand that the creature staring back is them. That question changes everything we think we know about minds. Because if even one other species truly recognizes itself, we are not alone in here. In 1970, a psychologist named Gordon Gallup quietly designed a test that would shake animal science forever. He wanted a way to peek inside an animal's mind without asking a single question. So he invented what is now called the mirror self-recognition test. The setup is almost absurdly simple. You let an animal get used to a mirror for a few days. Then, while it sleeps or is sedated, you place a small odorless mark on its face. A spot it cannot see, smell, or feel. Then you wake it up and put the mirror back. If the animal looks in the glass and immediately touches the mark on its own body, something remarkable just happened. It connected the reflection to itself. It understood on some level that the image is me. Gallup ran the test on chimpanzees first. They passed it without much hesitation. They poked at the mark, examined their teeth, picked food from between them. They even used the mirror to inspect parts of their bodies they had never seen before. It looked for all the world like self-recognition. And then he tried the test on other animals. Most of them failed. Monkeys, dogs, cats, birds, fish, lizards. To them, the reflection seemed to be another animal entirely. They threatened it. They tried to play with it. They looked behind the mirror, searching for the stranger. For decades, the conclusion seemed obvious. Self-awareness was rare, almost sacred, reserved for a tiny club of great apes. And then the club started growing. In 2001, researchers at the Bronx Zoo placed a large mirror inside an elephant enclosure. 3 Asian elephants approached it cautiously. One of them, an elephant named Happy, began to behave like no elephant before her. She used the mirror to inspect the inside of her mouth. She swung her trunk in front of the glass and watched it move. And when scientists painted a white X on her forehead, she touched it. Not the actually think you are. The X on her own skin. Happy had passed the test, and a creature 10,000 times the size of a chimpanzee suddenly joined the club. Then came the dolphins. In another famous experiment, researchers marked bottlenose dolphins and gave them access to underwater mirrors. The dolphins swam straight to the glass and twisted their bodies to see the marks. They contorted themselves into positions they would never normally take. They lingered in front of the mirror longer than they did at anything else. It was the aquatic version of standing in your bathroom adjusting a new haircut. Magpies, those clever black and white birds, passed too. When given a colored sticker on their throat feathers, they pecked and scratched at it the moment they saw the reflection. Remove the mirror, and the scratching stopped. The bird seemed to understand exactly what the mirror was telling it. Cleaner wrasse, a small reef fish, may also have passed, though scientists still argue fiercely about what that means. Because here is where the story gets complicated. Passing the mirror test does not automatically mean an animal has a rich inner life like ours. And failing the mirror test does not mean an animal has no sense of self. That is the part most people miss. Take dogs. Dogs almost universally fail the classic mirror test. For years, that was used as evidence that dogs lack self-awareness. But dogs do not live through their eyes. Dogs live through their noses. So, a biologist named Mark Bekoff designed a different kind of test, built around scent. He observed how dogs reacted to their own urine versus the urine of other dogs. Dogs spend far less time sniffing their own scent. They recognized it. They knew it belonged to them. A later researcher refined the experiment by altering a dog's scent with an added substance. The dog suddenly spent far more time investigating, as if to say, "This is mine, but something is different." That is self-recognition, just not the visual kind. It suggests our mirror test may be biased toward animals that experience the world the way humans do. If you built an intelligence test around echolocation, humans would fail spectacularly. If you built it around smell, dogs would humble us all. The mirror is a human tool measuring a human kind of awareness. So when a species fails it, the honest answer may not be that they lack a self. It may be that they have a different kind of self, one we do not yet know how to measure. Let me ask you something before we go deeper. Have you ever caught your pet doing something that made you absolutely certain there was a thinking creature in there looking back at you? Maybe a dog who knew it had done something wrong before you said a word. Maybe a cat who held a grudge for hours after the vet. I would love to read your story in the comments below, because those everyday moments often capture what science is still struggling to prove. Now let us steer back into the question. Because if some animals truly recognize themselves, we have to ask what that recognition actually means. Is it the same as the experience you have right now, reading these words, aware that you are reading them? Probably not. Self-awareness is not a single switch that flips on or off. It is more like a dimmer dial with many possible settings. At one end, you have basic body awareness, knowing where your limbs are in space. Almost every animal has some version of that, even insects. Further along, you find ownership awareness, recognizing your own scent, voice, or territory. Many mammals and birds clearly have this. Further still, you find mirror self-recognition, the ability to map a reflection onto your own body. Only a handful of species have demonstrated this so far. And beyond that lies the deepest level, the one humans treasure most. Knowing that you know. Thinking about your own thinking. Wondering what you are. Whether any other animal reaches that final level is one of the great open questions in science. But the closer we look, the more candidates we find. Crows seem to plan for the future, hiding food in places they remember days later. Octopuses appear to recognize individual humans and treat them differently. Pigs can learn to use mirrors not to admire themselves, but to find hidden food behind their backs. That last one is fascinating, because using a mirror as a tool rather than as a curiosity requires understanding what the mirror is doing. It requires a small but real model of the world that includes yourself in it. And then there is the other side of the debate. Some scientists argue we are being too generous. They suggest that what looks like self-recognition could be sophisticated learning. An animal that touches a mark on its face might simply be learning that movements over here cause changes over there. It might be cause and effect, not consciousness. This is the instinct argument, dressed in modern clothes. And it is not unreasonable. Animals are extraordinary learners. A pigeon can be trained to peck at a spot on its body when it sees a mark in a mirror, with no claim of self-awareness at all. So how do we tell the difference between a creature that knows itself and a creature that has just learned a clever trick? The honest answer is, we are still figuring that out. Science does not yet have a perfect tool for measuring consciousness from the outside. We cannot climb inside another mind, human or animal, and verify what is in there. We can only watch behavior and make our best guess. But the weight of evidence keeps tilting in one direction, toward a world far more crowded with minds than we used to believe. For most of human history, we drew a thick line between us and them. We were the thinkers. They were the reactors. We had souls, stories, identities. They had instincts. That line is fading, sentence by sentence, study by study, species by species. And the fading of that line is not a loss. It is an invitation. An invitation to see the natural world less like a backdrop and more like a community of minds. The chimpanzee picking food from her teeth in front of a mirror. The elephant gently touching a mark on her own gray forehead. The dolphin twisting to see herself underwater. The magpie scratching at a sticker no one else can see. The dog cataloging its own scent on a winter morning. These are not just behaviors. They are quiet declarations. I am here. I am someone. Maybe the most humbling thought is this. We have spent centuries asking whether animals are aware of themselves. We have rarely asked whether they are aware of us. And yet every dog that runs to the door, every cat that learns your moods, every horse that softens for a familiar voice is answering that question every single day. They know us. The real wonder is not whether animals can recognize themselves. The real wonder is that, in their own ways, they have been recognizing us all along. If this video gave you a new way of seeing the animals around you, a like would genuinely help more people find it. Subscribe to Animind if you want to keep exploring how animals think, feel, and perceive the world we share. And tell me in the comments which animal do you believe is the most self-aware and why. I read every reply, and your stories often shape the next videos we make. Speaking of which, next time we are going inside one of the strangest minds on Earth. The octopus, a creature whose intelligence is so alien. Scientists half-jokingly call it the closest thing to meeting a thinking being from another planet. I will see you there. Until then, look at the animals in your life a little longer today. You might be surprised who is looking back.